As I'm sure you know, there was a new special for Miraculous called Paris Tales of Shadybug and Claw Noir, and I haven't seen it until today. So as I was watching, I wrote down some notes, so I'm gonna just be talking about it today. Before we get started, I do want to say I'm a little bit sick, so that's why my voice sounds a little weird. And I want to give a shout out to Ken for harassing me into making this video. And also another shout out to Chronos Fiction for being the voice of reason. But hopping right into it, the first thing that really surprised me, like out of the gate, was the intro. Because, you know, it started off normal, right? Like it started off with like the first few seconds being the regular intro, and then it just completely changed. And while I was watching, I was just like, wait a minute, what is this? I didn't expect this. I didn't know what this was. It was also a little cringe, just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it was more surprising than it was cringe, probably, just because I wasn't expecting it, you know, because especially since it's been so long. So I was like hearing the intro, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what I was expecting. And then boom, out of nowhere, it was completely different. So I just thought that was funny. Now, in the first few minutes of this episode or this special, they did like sort of a recap of the season, like 4 to 5, like right after the season 4 finale. Like they sort of did like an aftermath of what that was, which I felt like would have been really good to see in season 5 anyway. But you know, I'm glad that we got to see it in the special. It just adds a little bit more nuance and like a little bit more, you know, to that finale, which I feel like would have really helped it. So yeah, that was just really cool to see. Now, I also really liked the dynamic between Shadybug and Claw Noir. You know, I felt like it was just really refreshing to see them as villains, which, you know, I don't think we've ever seen before. I mean, I guess we have, just not to this extent. Like, it felt like they actually had a backstory and motives behind why they were evil, but, you know, they weren't completely evil, you know, obviously, as we saw from the ending there. But yeah, it was just, you know, cool to see a different personality, and it wasn't just Marinette but evil. It was Marinette very clearly from a different timeline, who had her own backstory. And I mean, I guess same with Claw Noir as well, right? But you know, it added to the depth and feeling, which is why I think a lot of people really liked this special, is because it just felt realistic and it felt like, you know, we really wanted to learn more about those new characters. And speaking of Shadybug, her lucky charm is too lucky. I wouldn't say it's too lucky in general. I would just say it's too lucky in comparison to Ladybug's lucky charm, because like one of the first things that she does is she gets a butterfly tracker. We have never seen something that complex, really. I mean, I guess we did see a sports car, but anyway, we haven't seen anything like a butterfly tracker like that isn't actually in the real world. Like it hasn't been ever created before. It's just something that she came up with, but yet she was able to create it when the lucky charm is supposed to just give you random items. I didn't like how it just was like, oh, you need a butterfly tracker. Here it go. Here it is, you know? And just, I don't know. It felt a little bit weird, especially since like, you know, in this episode, she had like probably about 50-50 on things that were useful and things that were not. Like she got like rocket launchers a few times and like, you know, different like sorts of, you know, weapons. But, you know, she also got like, you know, motorcycle helmet and other stuff like that, right? It just felt inconsistent. So I felt like that was a little weird. And we didn't really have a good explanation, at least that I felt, for why it was so inconsistent and why sometimes it was a really good thing or sometimes it was just really bad. Like I felt like that could have been changed a little bit. And I really liked how in this special they talked about why you can't use your power over and over again, at least for Ladybug and Cat Noir, because they're too immature and, you know, whatever. And the reason Shadybug and Claw Noir were able to is because normally there is like a limit. Like you can only use it once because your body can't handle it, right? And we did see, you know, Shadybug sort of, you know, getting hurt a little bit there at the end, but there's that limit just to protect them. However, the supreme being, or, you know, I guess the guardian of the miraculous, allows it, and or if they're using it for evil or something. I'm pretty sure it sort of was confusing a little bit there, but I'm pretty sure if the guardian, which I guess in their universe is the supreme being, allows it, then that system can be overwritten, which allows them to just bypass it completely, and then they just have free reign over it. So I felt like that explanation was really good and, you know, was something that we sort of needed, because yeah, we get that, you know, there's a limit because your body isn't mature, but there's a completely different nuance if we know that the reason why they can't is because if they do, then they will literally start deteriorating their bodies instead of just like, oh, you can't because your body can't, it's not mature enough yet. Like it gives a different vibe, because then you can really see how, the system goes into place to ensure that the miraculous are used for good and to not harm the wielder. So it just adds more nuance and more like depth to the whole series and lore of the miraculous, at least in my opinion. And sort of speaking on like the miraculous and like the supreme being or whatever, we did get to see the true form of the Kwamis, Plague and Tiki, which was cool because, we saw them like that one time, or maybe it was 2 times before, but we never really got like an explanation as to what that was. But I think in this special, it sort of made it feel like, transcending time and space and all of the dimensions, there at least seems to be this existence. And in this existence, that is where, you can see Tiki and Plague in their true form. At least this is how I interpreted it. And it seems to be that's sort of where the wish comes from as well. Like, they are transported to this new existence or something, and that's where they're able to like sort of edit things about a particular universe, which, allows you to, bring someone back to life and then kill someone else, for example, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense, and it was really interesting to see. But again, why is this in a special? Especially since it feels like something that fits so well in with the series. I felt like this should be in a more like canon. Like this special just felt like it fit right in with a normal episode. So why is it in a special? Because the other specials, they're canon, but we hardly ever see it. But like this one felt like it should have had a much bigger impact on the overall series and like season 5 as a whole. So don't know why this, is being explained in a special. But anyway, it also is interesting how the Supreme Being seems to have some form of control over this, space that is above time and reality. I don't get it because they didn't really explain it, but he just seems to be this all-powerful being, and either this is just a power that the Guardian of the Miraculous has, so in theory, Marinette would be able to do something similar, or it's something different and we don't know what that is. Or, maybe it's a special power that the rooster gave him or something. I don't know. But either way, it sort of feels like, how are you going to beat this person who basically, can control like time and space and like stuff like that? Like it seems like he's just kind of OP. And it's really frustrating because I don't know if we'll ever see a conclusion or a continuation off of this. It was just like, oh, yep, there's this all-powerful being who controls time and space or whatever, and you'll never get to see him again. Like, it feels like that's a bombshell to drop without any closure. And I could be completely misreading into this, or like, maybe I didn't understand it fully when I was watching it or whatever. It just, I don't know. It just was something that I felt like we could have had a little bit more closure to or something, or like at least more of an explanation as to who this guy was. Now, I did quite like the ending because it did feel a little bit different, because it wasn't like how the ending to the episodes and stuff usually is there's this person who gets akumatized and they're beating the person. The person was never evil to begin with. I mean, I guess in certain cases, like you could argue Chloe or whatever, but like usually the person isn't evil, and then they get akumatized, so they're evil, and then they get deakumatized or whatever, and they're fine now. But in this case, Shadybug and Cloud Noir, they were evil. I mean, at least to a degree, right? And then they, through the course of the episode, learned that, it didn't have to be that way, because they were really only evil because the life circumstance that they had just caused them to be. And I think an underlying tone of this, if we wanted to get really deep here, is that your environment really affects who you become. And sure, that's not the only thing that affects who you become, right? But your environment plays a huge role in who you become and how you act. And yes, you can break out of that, but it's why you see certain kinds of people who grow up in certain kinds of environments end up acting a certain way or are discriminated against because they do X, Y, or Z. And really, they don't have, like, that's just how they grew up, and that's why they are the way that they are. And it's not like because they're a bad person inherently, like Shadybug and Cloud Noir. They are good people internally, and they have good intention. Just their environment was really bad, And so that, meant that influenced them and affected them to become more evil. So I think it's just a really, good way to show that, yes, just because a person does bad things doesn't mean that they're a bad person by heart or that they want to do those bad things. Sometimes your environment just affects you to a point to where you end up doing them because you feel like there's no other option. So yes, just overall a good lesson from this special. And I don't feel like there's always a lesson in Miraculous with every episode, but this one definitely had a good lesson that, maybe it wasn't the whole point of the thing, but like you could definitely gather that from this special. And I just felt like that was a good lesson to learn from this, although I don't know if anyone's going to read that far into it or not. Now, the final thing I just want to say real quick here is that there are other parallel universe, like the one with, Shadybug and Clone Noir, that feels and is so much more interesting than the one that the actual show is based around. At least in my opinion. Like, I would love to see a spin-off series, which they're never going to do, by the way, but like it would be interesting, and I would actually be more invested probably in the spin-off series because, one, there's this supreme being who, isn't really fully explained and is super interesting because it's like, how are you that powerful? What can you do? And this whole world is dystopian and he sort of controls it. And on top of that, you have these characters who were originally evil, but they're not like evil by heart, right? So they're just environment, condition them to be evil and want to do bad things or whatever, right? So then, they meet and they grow and they, evolve to become good guys. And now they're making a team. And it just feels like there's so much more backstory and at least interesting stuff. Because I feel like, learning and seeing people evolve and grow is a really good lesson and a really good, way to, have a story, because that's ultimately, how things go, right? Nobody is just inherently evil from the start, and no one is inherently good from the start, right? Like it's a slow, gradual, like when you grow up, you learn from your parents and from your environment whether you're going to be a good person or a bad person, and you learn morals and you learn what you believe in and, all that other stuff, right? So no one is inherently good or evil from when they are born. However, when you have people who want to be good and, know that their world really sucks and their, situation really sucks and they want to be better, but they just can't, and it feels like they lost all hope, and then they could become bad, and then eventually they get hope, and then they become good. That to me sounds like a really interesting character arc and a character that I would really like to see. And I know a lot of other people want to see that because that is literally Chloe. And, as much as people either love or hate Chloe, because it really does seem like it's a stark line. Either you love or hate Chloe, that defines Chloe right there. And the writers of the show were actually starting to do a Chloe redemption arc. And I know Thomas denies it. And I know that he did come out and say, look, Chloe is evil. She's meant to be an antagonist. And you know what? Sure. If that's how you want to paint her and you want her to stay evil, that is fine. However, her character is set up perfectly to be someone who can be redeemed and who can have a redemption arc. And you see that kind of character played out in all kinds of different shows. So it is a very popular like trope, I guess. But it just, I don't know. I felt like the show would be really interesting if it was from Shadybug and Clown Noir's perspective. Sorry that the ending there got a little bit deep and we got into a little Chloe rant there. But yeah, it was fun making another video again. It was good seeing you and good talking with you again. No plans to make another one. This was, I was bullied into doing this one, and it's not gonna work again. I wasn't actually bullied. I had control over it. It was just like, you know what? That could be fun. Because I haven't done one in a while. So, yeah. Oh yeah. Happy New Year. It's 2024. Wow. Yeah. Thank you all for your support. And I'm interested to see how well this video does. I'm going to say max of 5K views. I don't think it's going to get over 5K views. Yeah, that's my guess. So if you are one of the 5K people watching, I don't even know, it might only get 100 or like 1K. If you are someone who's watching, and especially if you're someone watching to the end, thank you so much. I really love and appreciate you. And yeah, you make it fun to make videos. And yeah, comment. I don't know. What do I want to say? Comment like I don't know. Let's do traffic cone. Comment traffic cone if you've gotten to the end of the video. And don't just say traffic cone, right? You got to put it into a nice little like sentence about traffic cones. Like you can mention like, wow, they did the traffic cone dirty in the special, or, you know, man, I just ran over a traffic cone today on my way to work or something, you know. Just comment it and make it sly, and then I'll heart anyone that has traffic cone in the comments. So yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop rambling and end the video off here. So thanks so much for watching, and I don't know if I'll see you again. Goodbye.